Good afternoon, everybody. I'll try and keep Seth's energy up here. What is that it? Good afternoon. My name is Barinder Buller. I am the Vice President of Government Relations and International Affairs for the Supreme Cannabis Company. It's an honor to be here. Thank you to CannaTech. How about a round of applause for CannaTech? Isn't it a great conference? You know, cannabis conferences are great when you have brownies and cookies here. It's fantastic. It's an honor to be in Israel today. As walking around yesterday, such an ancient history in this region, in this country, and I think it's so fitting that we're here talking about an ancient plant and how it's going to disrupt, but disrupting for the good. I bring you greetings on behalf of our CEO, Navdeep Dhaliwal, who could not be here today, but I also want to recognize our founder and president, John Fowler, who is here today. For those of you who don't know, John is a pioneer in the Canadian cannabis industry, a advocate for patients' rights, a lawyer and a cultivator for a long time. And just last week, John was recognized as one of the 100 most influential people in cannabis. So congratulations again, John. Well deserved. Today, I'll walk through how you develop, diversify, and deliver cannabis products, and also touch on how we believe for the good, how cannabis is going to disrupt economies, plants, and bring wellness to life. Customary disclaimer you just saw to appease our lawyers. There'll be some forward-looking information in our presentation. Give you a quick background on who Supreme is. We are a globally diverse cannabis company based out of Toronto, Ontario. Any Canadians here? Yeah, there you go. Canadians will know our brand in Canada in the social use market, 7 Acres. We're very proud of that brand. 7 Acres in 2018 was recognized as Brand of the Year in Canada. So that's our footprint in Canada. Quick corporate overview for you. We are a publicly traded company that trades on the Toronto Stock Exchange under the symbol FIRE, F-I-R-E. We were licensed in 2013 by Health Canada and one of the youngest producers in Canada at the moment. Last slide on Supreme, and I'll move on. Just to give you a bit of a rundown of where we fit in the Canadian market. Here, you see some of the top 10 producers in Canada. At a revenue run rate, we're about 10th, despite being one of the youngest licensed producers in Canada, only licensed about 3 years ago. We're very proud of the fact that we're ahead of some of the players that have a market cap in the billions. Now, talked a little bit about our success, about 7 Acres, you know, how we've done pretty well in that marketplace. How did we get there? How do we develop products to get there? Well, we took a long-term view, and we took the view of understanding our consumer first at Supreme and through 7 Acres. We looked at the market, and we went after a consumer that most licensed producers did not understand and were not talking to, and that was the legal age cannabis consumer. Now, despite making up only 20% of the market, they will do 80% of the spend. And this was a very discerning consumer. They appreciate high quality. They appreciate subjective characteristics of cannabis, the visual appeal, the aromatic appeal of the plant, and that's what we targeted and went after. Now, cannabis can be a very simple business. You know, it's about plant, it's about products, it's about people. You take a cannabis plant, from that you take flower, or you take some trim. Through a variety of processes, we create some products, and that product serves people. But it's this last rung of the ladder where we feel that most licensed producers don't understand and get it wrong because they don't understand their end consumer. Now, I touched on characteristics that we believe are folks like. This is why we think it's so important to understand your consumer first and then build products accordingly. The map, as we all know, is changing. This is why it's so important to diversify. No cannabis company in the world can ignore this. As we all know, this map gets shaded darker and darker every day, and it's only going to start changing, especially here in the European Union. And we believe that our advantage at Supreme, when we look at the map, and we do have a global footprint, we believe that our value is going to be that we have been able to produce very good cannabis at high quality, high yielding, in a very heavily regulated market in Canada. And that is our value proposition. This is what companies need to ask themselves. What is your value proposition when you're going to go compete in the global framework? And as we all know, Canada was the first jurisdiction to legalize adult use cannabis for adults in the rec market. So This is where we believe Supreme has an extreme advantage, where we'll be able to cultivate at scale in a very regulated environment. Touched on a global footprint we've established in Canada. And I'll touch on this a bit further later, we have presence in Africa through our partnership with Medigrow, and very soon we'll be in Malta. We firmly believe that cultivating or extracting in low-cost jurisdictions will give us an advantage to bring products into Europe and also South America. A quick snapshot of what's happening in Europe. You see some countries here, large market sizes, small, but in particular, you look at the healthcare spend that's happening there, and this is where cannabis is going to be a disruptor on many of these nations. It is changing rapidly. It is changing fast. We don't have all the countries on here, but it gives you an idea. Look at a large country like Germany, and then you look at a smaller jurisdiction like Malta, just to give you an idea of where everyone is talking, and there's a bit of a domino that's going to happen. Now, we talk about cannabis disrupting traditional products is one thing. Cannabis is also disrupting traditional economies for the better. It is improving lives. It is uplifting people. I talked about our partnership in Medigrow in Africa, and I'll spend some time talking about this here. Lesotho in Africa is a landlocked kingdom within South Africa. Lesotho was the first African country to bring a legalized framework for cannabis. Supreme was the first Canadian company to go invest in Lesotho with our partners Medigrow. Currently, we employ 400 people there. Of those 400 people, majority of them never had a job. Of those 400 people currently working there, one job supports 5 people in a household. So just think about the economic impact on uplifting life. And we're also very proud of the fact that our partners in Medigrow, not just providing economic opportunities for the surrounding villages, but have also gone and built a census. They're doing, developing baseline data amongst all the residents around the villages, building health facilities, building education facilities, and all giving opportunities to people in Africa who have been native to this plant for millennia, centuries. And now in a regulated way, uplifting them, giving them an opportunity to be a part of the global economy in cannabis. This facility here, extractors in place, will be up with the GMP certification. When fully dealt, we'll have about 40,000 liters a year for medicinal cannabis oil for the market available. Now, we talked about products, and I talked about understanding your end user. This is the sort of a way we think you need to get there. And this is where we think at Supreme we have an advantage. Our proprietary advantage, combined with our IP, our people, our culture, our R&D, will all help us build products, a diversified product base that we can get out to markets. And you need to understand your consumer. And to do that, you're going to hear me say that over and over again. But this is a good pathway to getting there and understanding what you need to deliver. Disruption now. This slide's interesting. We'll talk about this for a bit. We all know cannabis is going to be a disruptor. And oftentimes, we know it's going to affect pharma, alcohol, wellness in the trillions of dollars. Now, this is where we believe that there's people sort of get it wrong. So let's take alcohol, for example. Talk about beer. You will hear many people talk about how, in order to disrupt the beer industry, you need to create a cannabis beverage. We think that's absolutely wrong, because there has been no ritual that's been proven where cannabis consumption has been done through a beverage. And those people who appreciate cannabis will tell you that a cannabis beverage is awful. We firmly believe that in order to disrupt and dispel industries such as alcohol, such as beer, we need to establish as an industry whole plant-based cannabis products so that there is no desire to reach for that beer, and let cannabis products stand on their own. And I think that's the way of getting there. And again, that is understanding your consumer, understanding your market, and going at it that way. I think lastly, I was going to touch on, it's great to be here, talk amongst ourselves, but you also realize when you come here, there's still a global stigma on cannabis. It still exists. And us, as global ambassadors for this industry, we need to ensure that when we go out there, we are talking, we're doing it in an educated way. we're doing it in a constructive way to ensure there is responsible cannabis policy brought along the world where it's uplifting people. So this is why it's great to see there's people like Daryl Dexter who are here from former politician in Canada, Ehud Barak, former Prime Minister here, that are stepping up and getting involved in this industry. And we need to ensure that people like that get involved, because whether it's through investments or it's through products, we need to all ensure that cannabis is having a positive impact on people and our planet, and we believe we'll firmly get there. Thank you.
All right.